Howdy, folks. Welcome back in to day 2 of SMITE Masters, a day full of fantastic SMITE. We were going to be super cool and have our sunglasses on, but Gore forgot to bring his, so I'm not going to wear mine.
They're like
either
50 feet in the other direction.
Yeah, what excuses? Gore Miser over there, Dimes here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to Alienware for supporting the entirety of the SMITE Pro League. Remember to head on over to SMITEGame.com/Alienware and utilize code AWSMITE09 for all of those benefits as well. Gore Miser, we just witnessed the Scarabs triumph over their enemy. We're headed now into the Oni Warriors taking on the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this one, right? I think that the Warriors, as a team, again, maybe in a little bit of a slump as things have been going lately, not very, very clean play, taking a couple of losses where a lot of people probably did expect wins.
Yep.
This is a chance, for them to be able to bounce back, or for the Ravens potentially to be able to capitalize on maybe the downward trend of the Warriors and be the first SCC team to knock out an SBL team, or at least knock down an SBL team.
Right, a bit of a repeat there as we head into the schedule for the rest of SMITE Masters here. Checking out, here's what we just witnessed. Tartars, Titans, Kings, Gladiators, Scarabs. We're through all of that. Finishing off day number 2 here with the Oni Warriors taking on the Highland Ravens. It should be a great way to cap off our day here. A very tight set for that for day number 2. And we have lots to look forward to, though, for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I'm excited for this group. Again, just the way that they've been playing. Whoever wins this, I believe, goes up against the Dragons, which, again,
tough ask.
Fun prize for whoever is going to go through. Whoever loses will then place the Sages for their tournament life. And it's fun watching these different groups just because at the end of the day, seeing the way things can shift, and, if you watched during Masters number 1, a lot of this was like day by day, you would go kind of like eliminating through a group, and then 2 would move to the next day, 2 would move to the next day, things like that. I think that this is a fun format to watch through these teams because we've seen SPL teams falter towards the ends of these group stages. So we'll see here in week 1 by Sunday who's going to be making it all the way out, and I think that's going to be very fun, especially when looking at it. Like, I think Warriors, both them and the Ravens, have had a lot to offer.
Oh yeah.
But with the Warriors being in the position that they're in, it can definitely be uncomfortably shaky, I think, going into this one. Although I talked to Qvo coming in here, and he did not seem neither plus nor minus. He was just Qvo.
Well, Qvo was always full of smiles, right?
Yeah.
You're never going to shake the jungler for the Oni Warriors. But we don't even need to talk about the talent of the Warriors, and I think some surprise that they haven't been as successful as they have been right so far in phase number 2 here. I mean, you look at this talented roster of Nika. Qvo, of course, Qvo has been playing forever, one of the best junglers to ever exist in this game. Vote and Neil making up a reliable duo lane here, and then of course Dardez finishing out that middle lane role. What do you think's been lacking so far for the Oni season that they maybe can step it up here against the Highland Ravens?
I think a lot of it has just been, honestly, up front. Like, I think there's been some stuff in the drafts that have been a little weird with some of their picks and kind of leaning out on things that maybe aren't going to be as high pressure. We talked about Daji being one of the best gods for the Warriors for the longest time, but it's kind of fallen to the wayside because everyone's been banning it. So it's like, yeah, it's still one of the best junglers that they can scoop up, but are they actually going to get it? And the answer should be no. In this set, it should continue to be no. Qvo's just nuts on that pick. And so it is like picking up some of these others. They haven't translated as well to grabbing these other gods. And so I'm wondering if you can just get Qvo on something that he can have a good impact on, make sure the same is true in mid, make sure the same is true for Vote, you're going to be fine. But a lot of it, I think, originates out of the jungle, and I think a lot of it so far has been originating in the draft.
And we've seen Qvo pick up a lot of supporting characters, right? We just saw on the Cabrakan, right? More of a setup style, not necessarily a hyper carry jungler. Maybe something a little bit more aggressive. But
yeah.
Trelly here to talk to the Warriors about their upcoming game. Trelly, what do you got for us?
What's going on, SMITE fans? I'm sitting here with the Oni Warriors, more specifically the support player. We got Neil here. He's looking extremely happy. Neil, how you feeling about this match, man?
I'm just stoked to be back in the studio, playing some LAN games. I'm looking Sam in the eyes for some reason, not sure why, but it's going to be a great day.
It seems like you're just happy about the win. Hey, jokes aside, I don't know if you can see over there, but sitting at one of those chairs, more so to the right, that's the king. Has that got you a little bit nervous?
Oh, he came back for my blood, and that is a scary prospect.
You think he came back specifically for you?
My blood.
Okay, well, I think there might be a little bit of a different rivalry going on over here. I got to ask Qvo one question because you've been playing against Adapting for quite some time in the jungle. Are you nervous at all?
I mean, it's always nice to have the king back, but it's just a shame is in these circumstances, and I have to put him down once again.
You're gonna have to put the king down. We said like Mufasa style, like you're gonna be Scar, you know, and just long live the king and just shove him off. That's the analogy we're going with. Cubo's excited. The Oni Warriors are hyped. And back to you guys at the desk.
Confidence. Pure confidence out of QvoFred there, ready to put down King Kinnan. NeilMah always smiles as well. Just immaculate vibes from the Oni Warriors, right? Between Neil, who is ever upbeat and positive, right? QvoFred always with a smile on his face. Same thing goes for Nika. A confident Oni Warriors, I would say. And of course, they're talking about the King. King Kenneth adapting, who has made their return to the LAN scene on this Highland Ravens.
Yeah, and again, that is maybe the biggest thing. This is a roster of a team that I think is incredibly potent and incredibly powerful in most circumstances. But you gotta talk about adapting playing on LAN again. Like it's impossible to jump past this towards anything else. Again, I think the roster, the rest of the Ravens, all have something great going for them. But it's adapting, right? 2-time back-to-back world champion, first team to ever do it. One of the best junglers, you know, if you're talking about that, to have played SMITE. And while things, you know, towards the end of his career in the SBL maybe weren't like as maybe highlighty as he would have liked and didn't end on maybe the note he would have wanted, I think that the impact on SMITE as a whole was incredibly massive for him. And he's fit into this team really well, right? I think that is something that was actually a little surprising. You know, you would think, especially from what we've seen in years past, that adapting, being picked up, thrown onto this squad, is going to end up being like just a hard carry and almost a circumstance kind of like the Scarabs when they had Scream, right? Sure. Where it's like, all right, yeah, cool, the team was playing, but like, let's talk about the jungle. And what was lucky for us is that, yeah, adapting had some really, really good games and it was impactful, but it was never enough that it overshadowed, you know, Coast having a great game or Angry having a great game
Absolutely.
or Calvin saves or Kana's frontline play. So I think that this is a team that has found a really good spot for themselves in Europe. I think that they will always have been and will remain to be one of my favorites to watch, and I'm excited to see what they have to offer this tournament, doubly so because it's the return of adapting.
Absolutely. And speaking of Angry playing on ping for SMITE Masters.
Yes.
How big of a deal do you think that realistically is, right? We talk about big man Tings not being in studio for the Kings. Clearly has not played too much of a role for the #1 seeded Kings. Angry.
In fact, they did better when he was gone.
Right, exactly. Yeah, a little bit slower today. How big of a deal do you think it is that Angry's not here with the team in person?
Honestly, it's a little bit of back and forth. I think, you know, especially for these guys, being able to come in and sit in a LAN booth together, for everyone but adapting, right? Adapting's done it a lot. So it's maybe not, I was going to say, it's maybe not as like this fresh and exciting experience for him, but I think for everybody else, kind of like getting to see the, you know, hey, this is the guy that you've been queuing with like 10 times out of the week, like every time that you're playing your SMITE games and going into ranked, things like that. This is the guy that you're scrimming with. These are the guys that you're playing with on the weekend while you're doing SCC. So I think it's one of those things that like mentally it's going to be like a little bit of a bummer, but also at the end of the day, they hear Angry in their headset and they see his name on the screen. For him specifically, though, it's going to be God dependent, right? There's some gods that are maybe going to be a little more tough to try and pull off on ping. We saw that Big Man Tings was used to it. A lot of those EU guys have definitely queued NA before to learn and practice on that ping anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if Angry's been doing that for a few days. And as long as you have the right choices, it can go almost completely unnoticed. There are going to be moments where you'll be like, oh, well, that was a little wide, and it's like, well, was that a ping thing? Was that a him thing? Where is it going? I think that as long as they can keep their heads on them, though, it won't affect them too much.
I was chatting with Calvin about this, about Angry not being in studio, and he said the thing most concerning is that it's like midnight in Romania where Angry's from, you know, so maybe tiredness is playing a role in this as well.
Not only that, I feel like, I can't remember if it was Angry, and someone will have to remind me, but like last Masters, that was something like we ended up having a very long day, and it was like Angry was still playing at 6 a.m.
Yep, it was Angry. Yep,
and it's
6
like, my God, man, go to bed, get some relaxation, and take the time for yourself. So I think that, like you said, that might play a role into it, but luckily, he's done it once this year, so maybe ideally not 6 a.m. again, but if necessary, we know that he can do it.
Yeah, Angry's loaded up with energy drinks, coffee, or caffeine of choice as we head into picks and bans for game #1 here. Oni Warriors fighting against these Highland Ravens. Ullr and Morgan Le Fay. Now, we've seen Morgan Le Fay come out time and time again, but a #1 ban out of the Ravens, that's a little scared of Dardez, right? And we've seen Dardez pick up this Morgan Le Fay to great effect in the past.
Yeah, he's been playing the Morgan a ton lately, and for good reason, right? It goes well with the double dodge E, which I'm glad they banned that as well, because it's like, hey, if you grab this plus dodge E, plus I think they, even though it hasn't been happening as much lately, but occasionally having the Cthulhu in there as well for Nika, it's just a lot. That's a lot to deal with. So I like that ban, again, the double dodge E that they could have had with the Morrigan and the dodge E there is great. And I think that it is solid homework. I think that this is a big deal. Most of these picks are things that have been successful for the Oni Warriors and have helped lead them to victory. So for the Ravens, I think they're already off on a great foot.
Those bans came through so fast. It looks like the Ravens and the Warriors both have game plans in mind. It looks like they know where they want to go just based on how quickly those bans came through. Eset's going to be the first to lock in for the Oni Warriors. The Ravens are responding with this ever-popular Cupid. Could be the Jing Chen next on the table. We've seen the Ymirs be popular as of recent. Coming out of the jungle as well when you're thinking about adapting, right? Do you prioritize his pick? Maybe pick up something like a Cabrakan could head towards the jungle, but we usually see adapting on more aggressive hyper-carry style gods, maybe something like a Thor.
It's actually really interesting because it does keep that super vague, right? Because Cabrakan, like, he's totally been in the jungle. In fact, I can think of a time recently where Qvo's played it in the jungle. I can see, adapting, is going to be able to play it. It also can be thrown over towards Calvin. It could also be thrown over towards Cxnnahh, right? So, like, I think a lot of people... Hell, we've seen it in mid. Honestly, this is one of the picks that can really go anywhere if you want to flex it. I think we've seen it in support, most notably, though. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a Cupid Cabrakan lane. And that just means aggression, right? You know, if with Eset there, you can feel a little more confident. Chernobog is going over there with the Khepri. That means that you can just be super aggressive. You're going to have really good clear. You're going to have really good Trimble, really good CC control. And so that, you know, a dash through the wall, if you're the Chernobog, or just straight up dash away using your Abduct as a disengage for the Khepri, would be forced out of these two. And I think with the CC, the chains, the damage they can output, could be a successful duo lane for the Ravens.
And the European SMITE scene, once again, valuing this Baba Yaga. We just saw it picked up earlier today. It wasn't used to the greatest effect. I mean, the damage was there. The damage is always going to be there with Baba Yaga, right? With that home sweet home and everything else that this mid laner provides. And I think that tells us that the Cabrakan's not going mid, Gore. I think we can probably slot it in for Calvin, most likely in that support role. As the bans come through, once again, Osiris is going to be taken off the board by the Highland Ravens, targeting out both solo and jungle. We've seen Osiris flex into both positions. And
we saw it as something that was a big highlight reel player or god, I should say, for Qvo. So not surprising to see that stripped away from them. And I actually, you know, it's funny with the Baba Yaga gets locked in because it was something, you know, you go back, I would argue and say that out of the Pro League, we haven't seen a ton of Baba Yagas, so Herwin's still stands out really prominent in my mind because he went back to it several times. And, you know, when you asked him about it, he said the exact thing that you would expect. He's like, look, if you're picking Baba Yaga, you're playing for a late game team fight and you're going to do a lot of damage. Like, you're going to do a lot of damage.
Big time.
It's just your first 10 minutes or so, maybe you're not popping off. You're looking at stacking items. Her passive plays really well, I think, into the way she wants to grow and flourish. And so I expect a lot from this Baba Yaga, potentially, as the game goes on. But the problem is making sure that you get to a late game where you'll do damage that still matters, right? You could hit as hard as a truck later on, but if every one of your team has been outscaled and outleveled, is it really going to make a big difference?
These Oni Warriors, they are terrified of the king. Mercury, Nemesis, Thanatos, Fenrir. I can't remember, when's the last time we saw a Thanatos played, let alone banned?
He actually, in the SPL this year, there hasn't been a Thanatos game
and it's been banned away from adapting here on the Highland Ravens. The Herc pickup, potentially most likely for the solo lane for Cxnnahh there, which means that adapting is going to be able to take that counter pick in the jungle, which is always a great thing, able to pick whatever you want, but severely limited now as the god pool has dwindled away between that dodgy Osiris and all of the jungle bans from the Warriors. You're starting to kind of dig into your deeper god pool.
At the same time, I also could see him not batting an eye at it, right?
Absolutely.
Because
Thor, right?
I mean, I was going to say, when you come down to his iconic gods, they're still available. That Thor, it might as well just be adapting for some moments, right? And what we've seen in the past, and how often he played
like
it,
Oweelix.
and things like that. Yeah, like Oweelix, I think, is also available in there. And they have actually, you know, speaking of Oweelix, they have some knock-up synergy there with the Hercules.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot in the jungle meta right now. It feels a little more flexible, and we've been seeing, you know, outside of the Nemesis, things like this Pele that just got locked in.
And bots.
And so I think it does make it not necessarily an easy transition for adapting, but like you said, he gets to see everything he's going up against. He gets to look at the Assassin tab and the dregs that are left for him, but admittedly, it's still a lot of really powerful gods that we've seen him play. at the highest level before.
Yeah, when you're talking about maybe some older school gods that have been around a while, Hunbots is right near the top of that list. Provides so much utility with the Fear No Evil. Overhand Smash is a great source of damage as well. Still hovering, so the Highland Ravens aren't totally convinced this is the direction they want to go, but I think this Hunbots was slotted in great, right? You're looking at that mid to late game, like you said. You're looking at a team fight between the Fields of Love, Baba Yaga coming through, Hercules playing the frontliner. What better than a Fear No Evil from this Hunbots, adapting on the Hunbots, no less, to separate the team fight and create space for your team to do their damage.
And I think like even more so like CC, right? Because if you look at it, like Cupid's got a little bit, Cabrakan's going to have some consistency in there, Hercules will, Baba Yaga's going to be lacking, and then the Hunbots makes up for that, right? So it becomes even more, I think, powerful for them. I'm also interested to see, like looking back at the other side for the Warriors, you know, like Lancelot, this one going into the solo lane, which I think is a very impressive pickup for them. Only because the people who have been doing that, the only team I think that's really done that so far has been the Kings. Variety did it a couple of times. He liked going back to it. I liked it over there. I know Trelly will say something about how the horse is really good in the jungle and it can get you around places, but at the same time, a lot of the powers that he's going to have in the jungle, he can then use from the solo lane and late game team fights. I think we'll get some good rotations out of him. Nika's a phenomenal player, so I'm not really stressed out about anything he's picking up. But I'm also going to keep my eyes on the Pele here. Again, something Qvo has played a lot. And it's just the question of whether or not it's going to stand up to some of the performances that we need to see out of him, I think, for the Oni Warriors' success. Yeah,
the Pele is the one that piqued my interest the most. That final lock-in for QvoFred. I love seeing Qvo on more aggressive. Pele not necessarily considered a hyper-carry style of god, but can certainly blink in into 100 to 0 you with a full rotation of those abilities come the mid to late game. So excited to see Qvo on something like that. And then meanwhile, looking at the rest of this composition, it seems like the Ravens and the Oni Warriors want to both team fight in this mid to late game, right? Eset, Khepri, Chernobog, these are all characters that benefit greatly from having a couple items online. Same thing with Khepri with that Scarab's Blessing. So we're reaching this point where it's, you know, compositionally, it comes down to similar styles. So now we're looking at talent and who can get ahead in this early game to transition that composition into the mid game they're looking for.
And that's where I think things are going to be a little more, well, it's weird. I want to say difficult for the Ravens because I see a draft like this, and when I'm thinking SPL, that kind of draft wants to find some picks, right? We've seen Fear No Evils, while they can be great team fight ultimates, in the early game, it's like I'm going to grab one or two of you guys and I'm going to pull you in towards us, or I'm going to try to separate you. Cabrakan, mostly single target CC. Hercules, mostly single target CC. So a lot of them are like, I'm going to grab one guy, I'm going to try to get that kill. Khepri deals with that really well. And if this was a normal SPL game, I'd be thinking, man, it sucks. You're going to have to sit around and maybe just farm. You won't be able to do much. Hunbots likes to sit around and farm. Europe, in their SEC style play, guess what? They like to sit around and farm. So I don't think it's going to be anything that's a hindrance towards them. The biggest thing I'm going to wonder is if the Warriors are going to let that happen, and more so how it works. Because that's where a lot of the problems have been met today, is the SPL teams will just sit back and farm with you. They might not even try to force the fight. But their farm's going to be cleaner, and the splits are going to be better, and they're going to end up with more gold than you. They're going to find invasions, things like that. So if the Ravens can keep up with that, again, having someone like adapting behind them is going to make that a much easier path to follow. Then I think it's going to be even easier for them to keep up, try to find that late game where these teams are going to flourish, and then hopefully they'll be able to find an answer to the Khepri, whether it's ignoring the Scarab's Blessing or forcing it out way too early. Anything like that will work out.
Well, we've got questions, and guess what? They have got answers, they being the players in-game. Let's toss it on over to J-Mac and Trelly to take us in-game.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dimes and Gore. The final set of day number 2 of the SMITE Summers Masters. It's the Oni Warriors and the Highland Ravens. Oni Warriors, a bit of a downward trend for them in the second half of the phase. Trelly on, I believe it's a 5 or 6 set losing streak so far in the SPL. We'll see if they can break that with a win up against the Highland Ravens, the number 2 seed. Coming out of the European SCC. We are going to see Nika finally get a chance to pilot this Lancelot solo we've been seeing out of a couple of other teams. Variety on the Camelot Kings, maybe the most notable of them so far. We'll see if Nika can bring that same level of success for his team.
Yeah, that Lancelot solo is spooky. Whenever you can get the full build online, it looks like Nika's going for that Soul Eater style of build. I'm assuming a Glad Shield shortly after. Once those abilities start flying, you really are able to start doing a ton of damage while also being extremely difficult to kill while on top of that horse with the shield, things like that. You have plenty of ways to just immune a ton of damage while also chasing down, because you can use your horse, then get off the horse, use your ult, get back on the horse. There's just tons of ways to use that kit in the soul lane once you get online. I'm expecting to see not too much action in this lane. You know, 1v1 wise, I don't think Cxnnahh and Nika want to trade too much. They both have a fair bit of sustain built into the kit once that Soul Eater is finished, and then of course Hercules just by nature of that third ability. So it won't be too much until, of course, Qvo and Adapting start to rotate, and that's what I'm excited for.
Aggression onto NeilMah. We'll get beads from him and vote. NeilMah stepped in with a heart bomb. So no safety for the Oni Warriors as far as relics are concerned to the dual lane. Now I doubt that Adapting will hit 5 in the next 2.5 minutes. But if he does, that would be, at least in my opinion, Charlie, a perfect lane to now go to. I mean, that is 2 ample targets to be able to grab with no beads.
Yeah, I would imagine the Warriors probably understand that and are like, you know what, let's sit back a bit. Hey, we lost our beads in the first minute, both of us. Maybe we should play it safe for a bit until we get access to those relics. And then we're able to sit a little bit safer in lane. But Cabrakan Cupid definitely brings a ton of pressure, and I don't think the Khepri and the Chernobog are going to match that for quite some time. In fact, I don't imagine Neil and Vote are ever looking to find any sort of kill here. There's just too much CC, too much aggression. Calvin went for the blink for a reason, to get pressure in that lane, and I imagine that will continue. However, QvoFred can get a little aggressive here and try to take away those back camps, but recognize that Angry rotates over and says, I'll just take those, and then he's going to come back and try and go for the steal. Adapting, however, just went for mid, so a little bit of a trade, but also Qvo's getting the worst end of it. Still level 2 while Adapting's already 3. We talked about that level 5 potential from this Batz once it comes through. He's on the way there.
Yeah, those minis and those invades in particular, not as worthwhile for QvoFred, at least in the short term. Not going to get as much XP as if he would do his own. But at that same note, QvoFred does have his own back harpies that he can go pick up for himself. He even goes for a blue buff invade, sticking around a little while longer on that side of the map. So while Adapting does have the pressure, does have a little bit of an XP lead, we'll go for a purple buff invade of his own on the other side. QvoFred still has plenty of experience that he can grab on the right side of the map. We'll see where QvoFred and Adapting decide to put their pressure, because there's a minute until those beads are back up, but we haven't seen anything else in the duel lane from Calvin or Coast to try and really exert that pressure that they have yet.
I actually love what the Ravens just did there. Put some pressure onto the duo, got double beads. Then Adapting comes over, makes sure to invade that purple buff while also confirming their own purple buff. But whenever that happens, more often than not, what does the enemy jungler do? Go right for the speed buff. Well, Angry actually grabbed that one for themselves, so now the Ravens are able to confirm all their buffs. I'm assuming Adapting was able to run over to get some XP as well, and at least Angry picked up the buff, so now you got a fast Baba Yaga going through the mid lane. That's always going to be a good time, but what it did was get a little bit of extra farm. It did put Cxnnahh a little bit behind, but it made sure that you can influence Coast and Calvin specifically, and whenever I see the Ravens popping off, you know who's hard carrying them? It's always VaporishCoast. No matter who the character is, their ADC, certainly a high point. Make sure to get that duo lane ahead. I love what the Ravens just did there.
I mean, Coast has earned his nickname as the Penta Kid for a reason. I mean, this guy has popped off at so many major events, not just for as a nature of himself, but he's really been such a linchpin for so many of the teams that he has played on. We'll keep our eyes on Coast throughout the entirety of not just this set, but the entire performance of the Highland Ravens throughout this event. And while Angry picked up the speed buff, Adapting went and grabbed the red buff for himself, so not going to be buffless for this early stage. But the beads are now back up for the Oni Warriors duo lane. So that window of opportunity for Calvin and Coast to maybe get some pressure, it's not going to find it. It's going to be a little bit longer. Adapting used the ultimate, but QvoFred is 5 as well. That's a turn and burn onto Adapting. Ultimate not available for Qvo because he used it to get out of the last fight. And there will be no kills happening this time around, even with Dardez slowed in the tremors.
Yeah, it seemed like Dardez did want to drop the circle of protection there, but just could not get it up. And it would have been a circle of damage, essentially, because he was not looking to protect anyone. He was trying to find that kill onto Adapting. It seemed like the call was for Calvin to get the stun, and then drop the Fear No Evil on top of that and look for some aggression. Unfortunately, the stun doesn't land, and Adapting just drops the Fear No Evil onto nothing because QvoFred immuned it with their ultimate and was able to get a little bit of more damage off. So no first blood yet, just some ultimates drops, some blows being traded, you know, just a damage check, we'll call it. And then back to the regularly scheduled SMITE action that we've been used to, just the farming. I'm looking at the builds, and surprisingly, Dardez actually going for the Warlocks first, whereas Angry on the Baba Yaga, who gets the free stacks, probably starting with the Charon's coin, and then going into a stacking item like that, which does mean that Dardez will have a little bit of an extra step on stacking that item if Angry wants to go for it as well, but just by nature of that Baba passive, it's definitely going to be a race that I think Angry's happy to take.
It'll be pretty easy for Angry to stack up any items that he picks up. Karon's Coin, Warlock Staff, Book of Thoth, whatever it may be thrown into the build for him. We'll keep our eyes at least on Angry to see how the rest of his build will progress. Deck's going to be Gauntlet of Thieves for both the supports, which I shouldn't be surprised about. But Charlie, considering that the way the supports have been building as of recent, whether it be a Sovereignty Rush or even more so popular as of recent, Benevolence, Mail of Renewal, Meditation has kind of been the go-to for so many supports. So it's almost refreshing to see Gauntlet of Thieves be picked up by both supports.
Yeah, it's just going to mean a little bit tankier, and I guess both of these supports are, number one, trying to get active, because, you know, Mail of Renewal does help with the sustain, but I think just raw tankiness, you know, you're getting the HP from the Gauntlet of Thieves, and then the protections come through once you're stacked up, and that just means that you're so much more difficult to focus out. I understand exactly why Neil's done it, because he knows, you know, once my beads are down, I'm a huge target. The Khepri wants to die first in all of these fights. If you are the Highland Ravens, try to kill that Khepri so the res doesn't come through. And on the other side, Calvin went bling, so he wants to get active. He wants to be getting to the backline as much as possible. He also wants to be a little bit tankier.
Unfortunate for Kana, catches the wall with the pickup on Neil, so they can't displace that Khepri as much as they had wished to. A fight around the blue buff is going to cause a 3v3 as Dardez keeps Angry busy in the mid lane. Ultimate by Nika, and by QvoFred gets the Fear No Evil from adapting in the boulder out of Kana. And first blood will go to the Highland Ravens, but Nika will trade that one out instantly. Calvin knocked out of the Tremors. A good play by Nika to stop that, but NeilMah is going to be picked right back up. A stun from Calvin to hold him in place, but a root from NeilMah will lock down Kana and Calvin. Nika making sure that his support gets out. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but first blood to the Ravens.
Yeah, jungle for jungle, and I guess in this case, you're giving that kill over to Nika, but also over to Kana, so relatively even besides that first blood gold. Only 116 total, so not going to be the biggest deal. However, the experience is what I'm looking at currently a little bit in favor of the Ravens. Just by nature of the duo lane, it seems Calvin has a lead over Neil, and that's about it. That's all we can really tell. And it looks like Nika has pulled ahead a level in solo, but I imagine just by nature of faster farm, probably pretty even there as well. So, I mean, if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, not going to be the biggest deal. Neil does hold on to the beads, was in danger of dying, but didn't even drop the Scarab's Blessing, so got to save that. And now able to head back over to mid and just look at that 3v3 situation. But I'm just worried about, you know, how effective these Fear No Evils are going to be from behind. You don't have too much CDR built in just yet. Starting that Brawler's Beat Stick, realizing how much healing is on the opposition. Of course, that build is mirrored, but Batz essentially needs that ult to be able to engage, whereas Pele has a fair bit of chase down just by nature of the movement speed from her 3, so a little bit easier. I think Adapting's going to want to wait a little bit longer before throwing out another one of those ults.
I wonder how closely QvoFred will mirror the builds that we've been seeing out of the Pele's as of recent, which has been one item out of the Mace Tree, whether that's Jotun's Wrath or Crusher or Brawler's Beat Stick in this case, and then Erendite, second item, and then they've been going into the Magi's Cloak, usually Magi's Revenge almost immediately after. I'm curious if Cuvo will grab that item third as well. Could be good, especially against this. Kana goes in, and so does Calvin. It's a 3-man collapse on a QvoFred, but a Scarab's Blessing will keep QvoFred alive for the time being, as Nika makes sure to keep the mid laner zoned out of the fight. Calvin into a double pickup by Kana and a boulder after. Calvin is still fine, but he will go down afterwards. A reinitiation by the formerly almost dead QvoFred, now the dead QvoFred, as it's again a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, but it looks like Neil actually is going to be pulled in at the last second. The Taker Monkey Toss wasn't able to connect, and now Adapting is on the run. That was a close one, a very close call. Luckily, Neil held on to those beats throughout that fight and was able to use them there, because that could have been an easy death, as Nika's not letting this blue buff go down. Adapting's going to have to fight for it, but once again, just a 1v1 trade, and Adapting actually was able to confirm that one, so good for him. Now Kana can grab that buff, but just another brawl. We saw Vote fly in, so for the Highland Ravens, able to go even in a fight where Vote comes through and Neil gets a res off onto Cuvo, that's a huge win. The gold still slightly in their favor as well, as Coast is sitting around. There's no ultimate for Vote, but we'll be able to hide into the wall.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get away from the Fields of Love and the Heart Bomb's secondary damage. But that is a 180-second cooldown, or 160 seconds now. I hear the last coming from the B skin on VaporishCoast Cupid. And the Highland Ravens, with this very slight early lead, most of that lead in that mid 3v3, Adapting, Angry, and Calvin all about a half level or more up on their opposition. It's really only Nika who's kind of keeping even right at pace, maybe even slightly ahead in the solo lane. But that XP for the Highland Ravens, it's small, but it's definitely not significant just yet.
Yeah, it does start to add up, though, because Vote is going to consistently want to ult out, as we just saw, whereas Coast doesn't really have to leave. I mean, you would love to have your Cupid in these fights. What a massive team fight ultimate, but it's just you can't fly in. You have to walk over, which is what Coast is doing at the moment. Almost looked like he was looking for a rotation there towards those mid camps, but you know, by nature of that flight, by that global presence, Coast should be able to keep getting a wave or two underneath the tower, and that eventually will start adding up. When you look at level 20, I imagine the Cupid should be able to hit it first just by that fact, depending on how these objective fights goes and stuff like that. However, Pyromancer spawned in about a minute ago. No one's really went for a pull attempt, and it looks like Neil actually is in some trouble.
Stuck in the wall, a Fear No Evil keeps him locked down a little bit longer. A crash in from Angry on the house, but it's just not enough damage. NeilMah, tanky enough to sustain through the burst of that mid 3v3, in this case a 3v1, living throughout all of that. And for the Highland Ravens, a player that I've been keeping my eyes on for really, I have to say, the last couple of years of competitive play has been their mid laner Angry, because he has been a massive win condition for just about any team that he has been a part of. Because so many teams in the past were ignoring this player, and you cannot ignore Angry, you cannot ignore anybody on the Ravens, and you can't ignore Dardez on Eset, who will just walk in slowly, drop an ultimate, and steal away a Cold Fury. Oni Warriors on the warpath right back in as QvoFred is looped in, adapting. No mana to his name. Angry with hardly any health to his name as he is being burned down by QvoFred, and 2 down plus a Fury steal. The Oni Warriors punch back.
I mean, it was a clean pull, but right when Dardez shows his face, the second you see that Eset, that's got to be, hey, we're killing the Eset or this pull is done. They continued the DPS, and I don't know what the play was, because they didn't really try to outburst Circle Protection, and they didn't try to look for the fight after the fact. In fact, they tried to run, which in this case did not work. Cubo was able to chase down Angry. Dapt gets caught out as well. It just did not work out at all for the Highland Ravens, and they've been playing such a clean early given the situation, but now the cards are in the Oni Warriors' favor. You really cannot go for a pull like that when Circle Protection is on the map, and the Oni Warriors going to confirm that one.
Dardez just walked in, and there was no zone. Calvin wasn't up at the front to hold that one back. Kana was on the other side of the map. Fear No Evil just used prior. That was as easy as he can get for a mid laner there. I mean, he didn't even have to like try and sneak his way. He just walked up through the jungle and said, "That's a really cool objective you guys started. Do you mind if I just have it for myself and the team?" And then the 2-man follow-up after swung that goal about 1,500, now closer to 2K up for the Oni Warriors, where they were the ones at a minor deficit against the Highland Ravens just before.
Yeah, like I said, the Highland Ravens played this early game so clean up until that point. It didn't seem like a pull that needed to happen. And I understand the damage check, right, of pulling the Gold Fury. Let's see if someone shows up. Again, the second Eset walks in, that pull's dead. However, the Highland Ravens are still trying to get aggressive. I haven't seen Coast on his side of the map in quite some time. Has been sitting at the purple buff, looking to get aggressive whenever possible. And now it's actually the Oni Warriors who are positioning more so towards that blue buff. And actually the Pyromancer, as Coast and Vote, have a little bit of a little sprack and loses his Aegis in the process.
Pyro started. Ultimate by Calvin. Circle Protection guarantees that one for the Oni Warriors. And now Calvin gonna get caught out, pulled back by NeilMah right into the grave as Nika dashes on through, picks up the 5th kill of the game for the Oni Warriors. Another objective and another kill to the SPL team. Push that goal just slightly back up towards their side.
Yeah, and another Circle of Protection dropped, and still, it seemed like Calvin was trying to outburst that. I don't think your Cabrakan's life is never worth going in for that Pyromancer. And it just didn't work out once again. The Oni Warriors have been able to climb ahead a fair bit of gold, as you said, and now just going to be continuing to get aggressive, stealing away this Greater Scorpion, making sure to enhance those, or make sure that the Highland Ravens can't enhance their own buffs, I should say. Just taking away that right. Notably, though, the XP is not getting too outrageous, right? I'm seeing pretty much mirrored XP throughout the game, except for still, Calvin is a level ahead of NeilMah. Besides that, the gold is all the lead that the Oni Warriors have, and that's going to start to add up. The itemization will start to be a big deal. Notably, though, you know, second relics for your support is the next big power spike for each of these teams. Calvin, a level away from getting some form of survivability. Already 2 deaths on this support. You would love a little bit extra survivability there, maybe a shell, maybe a sprint, whatever you really need for your team. Neil's going to be a little bit off before he's able to match that.
Well, at the moment, not going towards another second item for Angry. He did go Divine Ruin, second item to deal with some of the sustain coming from Dardez, coming from QvoFred, and Nika, who's picked up some extra lifesteal on his kit from that Soul Eater. So now it's kind of a lull in the action. The Fury is down, the Pyro's down, Fire Giant maybe a little bit out of sight for both these teams as of this point. For the Highland Ravens in a situation like this, Trelly, what's kind of that momentum swing back for themselves to maybe that pick that they need to find to kind of get themselves back and going?
I mean, it would be massive if they could just get some relics down for adapting. You can never have your Hoonbats engaging on these fights when there's no relics available, and when all 5 beads of the Oni Warriors are available like they are currently. 5 beads are up, and that means that the Hoonbats can be not quite as effective as you would like. So just any sort of clean get in, get out situation where you can get some relics down would be the opening that the Highland Ravens need, I imagine, before this Primal Fury. Trying to force an ult now, so it's up then, could be the option. It could be, however, that Coast is in trouble.
Coast collapsed on by 2 and taken down. QvoFred, credit to the kill. And back over to the mid lane. Dardez versus Angry should be fine between the two of them, but easy pickings, at least in the left side of the map for the Oni Warriors. And adapting, forced to rotate over, so that way Vote can't put too much pressure on this tier 1 tower. But that just opens up the door for some action in that left jungle. Fury's up in 8 seconds. And if the Oni Warriors can find maybe a second pick or maybe even just a TKO, that Fury could be open in their sights. I mean, they have an Eset. They could just do it anytime that they want to. And that seems to be where the Oni Warriors are marching towards.
Yeah, they already are heading over. Cuvo's going to de-ward, and then I imagine the objective will be pulled right after the fact. And what a perfect time for that gank. Only 4 seconds left on Coast Aegis at the time of play. And Calvin, once again, is going to try to outburst. And I was going to say, this cannot be a call again. He had the blink primed and ready, but I'm guessing the team was like, bro, please don't. Like, that circle of protection, that's the Staff of Mirrodin, fully stacked Warlock's Divine. Like, that's not even like a support circle protection. That's a damage circle protection. Do not step on that. Do not attempt outburst. And luckily, the call was not made. So it looks like the Oni Warriors are going to continue the objective play, the superior objective play, and able to continuously farm up here. But again, just great timing there by the Oni Warriors. Cuvo gets that gank off the Coast. The beads go down, but just no Aegis available. And Pele, if you can get your full ultimate off the full range of damage, there's not too many carries that can live through that without the help of a support or an Aegis. So getting that pressure on the left side, that means that the Primal Fury opened up. Easy pull for the Oni Warriors.
We are seeing Vote going towards crit, which is something we haven't seen too much of the Hunters as of recent, Charlie. It's been a lot of the power, attack speed, pen style of build more than anything else. So seeing Vote go towards crit may put a little bit of worry on some of these objectives, because you've already got the secure from Dardez, then you throw in some burn from Vote. Is there any real answer back for the Highland Ravens on that other than maybe just trying to find a pick of their own? Because they're definitely not supposed to. I can't say they can't do it, but they're not supposed to be able to out-secure Dardez on this Eset.
Yeah, well, Cxnnahh has built into the Spectral Armor, so there's a bit of survivability there as Cuvo gets stuck by the Spectral. Oh, he's going to be able to get that Scarab's Blessing and actually go in off this.
Feel or No Evil will stop QvoFred. The ultimate gets body blocked, and Cxnnahh will put down the jungler of the Oni Warriors. Nika dashed through 4, but he gets picked right back up. Slowed down by Calvin. Coast gets silenced and stunned. So much CC onto Nika, but he's so tanky with this build. Vote has joined the fray, but he'll get stuck inside the Fields of Love, up into the sky. Where will he crash back down? At least some help from Nika, who goes right back in. Calvin in the backline is being zoned out by 3. Vote picks up 1. Nika, who was almost dead moments ago, is still diving to this tier 1 tower, but the Oni Warriors, they find 2, only lose Cuvo.
Yeah, Cuvo getting stuck seemed like a big misplay, but the rest of the Warriors were able to cover that a little bit early on the Scarab's Blessing, and it was that awkward moment where he's like, do I have enough time to die to the tower? Should I just go in? And decided to get off as much damage as possible before, you know, trying to kill and try and res with that Scarab's Blessing. So another great answer back for the Oni Warriors. Notably, the Ravens were able to get that 1 kill, but losing 2 in the process, not going to be the best trade, as Pyromancer has spawned back in. I expect to see a full grouping over this objective, as Cxnnahh actually taking a fair bit of damage, but has Shield of Regrowth. I don't imagine any more chase will be coming towards this Hercules.
Now he is zooming. All he needs is a wing blade at this point, so if he ever gets silenced by Dardez and pops that regrowth at the same time, he just He's just oh, you knocked over the pool noodles.
I'm sorry,
the
man.
pool noodles were stacked up so perfectly. You just knocked them over.
I mean, we have plenty of time to put the pool noodles back, man. I apologize.
You just ruined my entire mood now, Charlie. I'm
Your
sad.
mood last on the...
My mood was as fragile as those pool noodles were standing up, and you have completely cracked them and cracked me. It's game over for the rest of the day, Charlie. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not game over for anyone in this set yet, because even though it's about a 5K gold lead for the Oni Warriors, the Highland Ravens have a fair bit of team fight presence here. Home sweet home is going to be chunking through in the damage department. You still have Fear No Evil, one of the best team fight ultimates at these objectives if your team is grouping up properly for it. Still, however, my main issue has been, and will still continue to be, the beads burning factor of the Oni Warriors. I mean, trying to burn the beads of the Oni Warriors, rather. They've got 4 beads up. Only Nika is missing at the moment and still does have the CC immunity in the ultimate. Adapting's job is not getting any easier unless someone else can burn the beads. It's got to be Coast or a massive pull from Kana, because Calvin's been stunning and the relics have just not been flying. The only real kill they were able to find was on the Qvo, and that was off the wall, and Qvo held onto the beads during that.
It seems that every time Calvin goes in for the stun, the Warriors go, oh, okay, what next? Like, you stunned me, congratulations. So we'll see if one of the Highland Ravens' other members can step up and get one of those relics away. Oracle split down the middle, so no vision for either team directly in the pit. So we've been seeing at least a lot of action from the solo laners. Kana and Nika getting very active in this game. Coast, maybe a little bit anything but for himself. He's kind of been stuck in this dual lane for some time, and he's going to be stuck in the grave with a 3-man rotation. Drops the Fields of Love. Hey, there's beads from NeilMah, but probably not in the most ideal of situations. QvoFred does get credit to the kill, but with Nika and Dardez here, this Pyromancer will not go for free to the Highland Ravens. Calvin's still holding on to it, but Dardez and Nika can just walk around this wall and grab it anytime they want to from them. Because of that, the Highland Ravens will back away.
Yeah, and what an easy kill for the Oni Warriors to grab. You'd think because they put so much pressure on the left side, Fire Giant could be looked at, but nope, they killed Coast, who's their easiest burn on FG. Dardez stayed because he's got circle protection to go for the contention. And by the way, Vote can just ult over at any moment and even that fight. So they are able to put so much pressure on left and still be in contention for that Fire Giant at any moment. The Oni Fury has spawned in, however, and once again, it's going to be Calvin versus the world, and I don't think a miracle's coming soon.
Calvin rooted in place, on his way out the door already. So the Oni Warriors pick up their 3rd Fury of the game. One of them stolen at the start of the game, now 2 of them picked up by their own fruition. And the Oni Warriors with a nearly 9,000 gold lead, close to 8.5K at this point. Have all the control in the world, 8,500 experience as well. As we're starting to hit the 20s, those matter a little bit less and less, especially with 3 members of the Ravens at level 19. But this Fire Giant is going to be really where things open up. And Highland Ravens need to find their pick. They need to find some relics as well, as you mentioned earlier, because Adapting is the only one pulling those beads. And it's still 70 seconds on NeilMah's bead. So the Fire Giant started by the Oni Warriors. Adapting is here. He'll go in with an early Fear No Evil, but it's only going to affect NeilMah, and the Warriors go right back to FG.
Yeah, that's not the ult you want to see, and the burn will go, and circle protection is dropped. I don't imagine any steal attempt, and it's not going to go, but now the fight after the fact is what the Warriors want.
Kana's beads are gone. Nika in the back line with QvoFred. Calvin eating the damage from the jungler. Fields of Love catches 4 people. 2 of them get stunned out by it, and QvoFred does get procced by the Scarab's Blessing. No one has gone down yet in this fight, but it might just be Adapting. The Spirit Ball from Dardez over the wall catches the jungler in the first casualty of the FG fight.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like the Oni Warriors are backing up after this objective. They are running it down mid. They want this tier 2 tower. I was going to think maybe they just retreat, but they've got the Oni minions as well. They're going for this bird. Mid Phoenix going to be the first one to go for it.
Gonna be a tough defense now that you're down your jungler, you're down your AoE CC for the Highland Ravens, for both coasts, for both Adapting. The Boulder down by Kana. Not gonna find a whole lot of value in damage. NeilMah will eat the Heart Bomb stun, but NeilMah is just fine. He and the rest of the Warriors, I was gonna say back out, but Nika goes in with the Cavalry and will force all of the Highland Ravens out. Calvin 1 shot away, but he does manage to make it back to the fountain. Nika might be caught out because of this one. Dashes through VaporishCoast, finds the knockback.
Are you kidding me?
In a 2v1. And the Oni Warriors not only grab the mid Phoenix, they grab 1 kill on Coast, they also grab the left bird.
I mean, if I'm Coast,
He's a menace.
I'm so confident that I don't die there. I would say, guys, don't worry. I got this. Go defend something else. I wouldn't even ask for a meditation, anything. Nika just doing so much damage. I cannot believe. I mean, I've seen the solo lane Lancelot build. I just didn't think he was swinging like that. That's on me. I will now expect more damage coming from the solo lane and a power pot purchase, so even more going to be coming soon. The Highland Ravens in a position, a 2 Phoenix down situation that is never fun to be in. However, you still have one bird standing on the right lane, and that's going to be, you know, your ray of hope. You don't have to send someone over there. There's a tier 2 tower as well. That's something that you don't have to worry about. So only 2 lanes of fire minions. However, there's still 1 minute and 47 seconds left on this fire giant. That was a very quick siege and a very quick 2 birds down. The Oni Warriors have all the time in the world to group up and push through right. Take a look at the Ravens, though. They're not waiting idly at the base. They're trying to set up a gank here.
I think they realize that their Phoenix defense might not be their best chance to try and maybe instead find a pick in the jungle. QvoFred at the Pyro, as is Neil and Dardez. It's a chance, 5 versus 3, maybe they can find a pick on one person who walks through the left side of the jungle.
Oh,
For them,
unlucky.
it's QvoFred, and QvoFred said, oh, that's where the whole party is. And the rest of his team will instead rotate over to right. On this last Phoenix defense, though, Trelly, what's that line of hope for the Highland Ravens to defend their bird and push back against the Warriors?
I mean, their one line of hope was that the one guy that has Magi's doesn't walk up to them in the jungle. Unfortunately, it's the only guy who just goes like, I don't care if you CC me. And there's still 4 beads on the opposition. So Nika is in a little bit of danger, but I've seen his build. I don't think he's dying anytime soon. So it's all up to the Ravens, and Cxnnah's already getting low.
Wow, and that's his heal now on cooldown. Did get a decent bit of that damage brought back to him. 1 bird left, adapting, defending the Titan. Because somebody has to. Cxnnah goes for the blink, misses the pick back up, but gets some help and a bailout out of Calvin. The boulder drops through to only hit NeilMah. And Angry inside the house will get a little bit of damage towards Nika. Most of the damage thrown towards NeilMah instead. With only 15 seconds left on the Fire Giant, the Oni Warriors will back away from the right Phoenix and regroup.
You know, I'm surprised, but also I understand why the Oni Warriors wanted to play that one safe. They had all ultimates except for Nika's, and they decided to back off there. They realized Fire Giant was dropping. I think they could have dropped everything to confirm that, but it would have been a risky call going for the Fire Giant after the fact, because you probably aren't ending off of a play like that, and that's probably what was going through the heads of the Oni Warriors. Just want to play this one safe, wrap up a clean game number 1. So now we're in a situation where still the Highland Ravens, I imagine that mindset, is look for a pick, set up something in the jungle. I think Qvo is actually pretty safe here, because anytime Vote could just fly in and help out, and also a very quick character in Pele, but he could be in some trouble now.
Qvo held on to the bubble that entire time, used his beads and his ult instead, so he has the safety. Ultimate from adapting, gets the Aegis away from Vote, but a circle of protection from Dardez will keep the team alive. Walls drop through, and the boulder from Cxnnah will take down the Hunter of the Warriors. But what more can the Ravens find? It's not going to be Qvo this time around. Instead, it's adapting. Traded away. Scared's Blessing keeps Qvo alive. But Angry does find Nika all the while, who was trying to box against Coast and Angry all that time. If Cxnnah can make this one out, it's a good play for the Ravens.
3v3 and that mid bird is looking worse for wear, but Coast and Angry should be able to defend that one. And actually left side Phoenix spawning in as well. So the Highland Ravens, I mean, they defended against nothing because there was no Fire Giant, but they defended it long enough that these Phoenixes will be able to respawn back in before this Fire Giant is able to be pulled once again. And now the Oni Warriors are showing some face towards this objective. They have the vision already, but recognize they don't have too much DPS here. It's really only QvoFred, and a circle protection will be up shortly. I don't imagine you want to go for a pull in a situation like that. They are sort of just waiting. They're like, you know, it's going to take a bit. Nika has the teleport. Once that comes through, then we'll start DPSing this objective down. Cxnnah, however, is close by, and it's just going to be sitting here waiting. Doesn't have the blink available. Now is the blink available, so could make some plays here at this Fire Giant.
The play that QvoFred make, whenever we go back and talk, you know, seasons past the SMITE when things were online between the teams, we talk about the difference of performance on LAN versus regular season. That's the benefit of being in a LAN environment, was as soon as that blink came through from Calvin and a 1 after, Qvo already had that ultimate lined up. And we'll see if he can find some more as he wraps towards the backside of the fight. Ult from Nika is gone. Qvo goes in up against Angry and adapting. Angry is gone. Adapting is gone. It's a double for QvoFred. It's 1 for Vote. It's only the frontliners left of the Highland Ravens, and Calvin is going to be zoned away from this fight. No chance that he's able to stop the push of the Oni Warriors. They will march up the right side of the map, the mid lane of the map, and take at least a couple of these birds, and it's going to be a tough defense for the Ravens.
Yeah, not too much damage here. Cxnnahh's going to have to pull 3 underneath this well if he wants to try and keep this Titan alive, but there are some tanky targets to try and make it happen.
Oh, circle of protection eliminates Calvin. It's only Cxnnahh, does not find the pluck, except onto Nika. Gets knocked up, so he can't even find the push, and game number 1 will go to the Oni Warriors.
Wow, what a clean play there. I mean, Nika hits like 3 with the horse, adapting and Angry, instantly just burned down. And then you see the Scarab's Blessing put on a Qvo just for movement speed at that point. He wasn't close to dying. Neil was just like, hey, go get him. And then Pele,
got him.
He said, sick him, and that's all it took. Pele was able to dive the back, and unfortunately the 5v2 underneath the Titan room made short work of Calvin, and Cxnnahh just had to sit there and watch. It was like, you know, unless I hit a massive pull underneath this well, I don't imagine there's going to be any kills happening, and I tried my best, guys.
He definitely tried, and so did the Highland Ravens. They tried their best, but even though the early game went pretty well for them, getting a nice little bit of an early lead.
Oh, yeah.
That first objective getting stolen away by Dardez, that was kind of the turning point for the Oni Warriors. From then, they spiked the lead up to themselves, and from that point on, the Oni Warriors never really let off the gas. They continued to grab objective after objective. They scared the Ravens off of objective after objective. How many times do we see Pyromancer started by Ravens only to be thwarted instantly when Dardez turned the corner?
I mean, that's as far as I'm concerned, Dardez didn't even steal that gold fear. He was just like, oh, you guys started it for me. Thank you. Now I'm going to continue. Whenever there's an Eset on the map, that's got to be the mindset. I think the Highland Ravens are either going to A, not let that through, or B, come with a completely different mindset for game 2.
We'll see if the Ravens can find that new mindset for themselves and get prepped for game number 2. Oni Warriors grab the first. Can they keep it going? We'll find out right after this.
Folks, welcome back into SMITE Masters as we round out day number 2 here with the final match of the day, perhaps the final game of the day.
Yeah.
Dimes and Gore here, and for the second time on this desk segment, Gore has forgotten his sunglasses, thus ruining the bit that we predetermined. But he's blaming Trelly.
And now I'm blaming Trelly. And you know what? It's like starting to, like, it was very cloudy out. It's going to rain.
We're indoors.
That's gonna affect my beach day.
Okay, but all day long, sunglasses are going right there. We just watched the Highland Ravens fall to the Oni Warriors. Supposed to talk about SMITE or whatever. The Highland Ravens falling to the Oni Warriors, and honestly, Gore, it feels like I've watched. What is that? Game number 7 today, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like I've watched 7 games of the same exact game where this SCC squad finds an early game lead, or at least keeps parity throughout the early game, and then the SPL team just gas pedals mid lane or mid game rather, and runs it down and wins by 25
and I think it's actually a really good example, because I think yesterday, and a lot like with the Valks this year, I think has been another important conversation around them, where it was like, oh well, farming in the SPL, that's really difficult. They're really good at finding neutral objectives. They're really good at splitting their farm, all that good stuff that we would talk about on end. But like you said, here it's not a lot of that. This is just grouped up team fights, all right? And that's the other thing. Their communication's going to be a little cleaner. They're going to be concise. These guys have been playing on land together all year, and you could see, I think, a lot of that in their team play. Good moments, like you highlighted early on for the Ravens, where they were able to bounce back and maybe find a play or a kill or something. But this one was just all teamwork, man.
Yeah.
And when the Warriors play at that level, sometimes it's just going to look that good.
Some tough objective play from the Ravens as well. I think we saw some signs of life, but the Oni Warriors able to capitalize. Do you think this is as you said, a cohesion type situation? Perhaps it was some of these less than meta picks, right? The Hercules, the Hun. I mean, Hunbots is strong throughout all phases of the game, but not necessarily popular in recent times, especially with some other more popular jungle picks up. Do you think maybe putting something or adapting on something that he can hard carry on, or maybe pep his team up a little bit?
I think if you could get something that's maybe a little more impactful, I think, when I think of Hunbots, you're not thinking of someone who's going to be a hyper carry. Like, I see that 1 in 5, and a lot of that's not even like adapting, is he washed or anything like that. It's like, no, that's just Hunbots, man. Like, if Hunbots is having a bad game, what's his kit do? It says get in the middle of the enemy team. If you're not going to be able to have follow-up after that, or good damage after that, where kills are happening, then you're just going to die a lot. Very similar like Sobek, I think, where it's like if you're ahead and you're winning, then it's going to get even more obvious that you're an impact player. Sobek, like Plucks, are very similar to that. You miss one and you're dead, and same thing. You go in, you fear no evil. If no one's there to follow it up, or if the beads are up for the Warriors, you're just dead, because now you're surrounded by 4. And so I think if you can get a pick that maybe is a little less volatile for adapting, or... and this one's going to be harder unless they want to bump it up in the priority. Ideally, the Warriors don't ban out like a third of the assassins
all of
that
them?
you can then deal with. Like, because, like the Osiris was gone, the Daji was gone, the Mercury, the Nemesis, the Thanatos, the Fenrir. And then it's like, okay, well, some of those are going to be meta, some of those are not going to be meta. Pele at that point was gone as well, so that's technically another, let's call it ban, I guess. Along with like the Lancelot, which has been played a lot in the jungle, so that's another one. So it just feels like no matter what, you were struggling to come up with something. And again, there were still good jungle picks, but I feel like they're going to be a little more feast or famine.
And, I mean, on that Eset, as we head towards picks and bans here for game number 2, the Highland Ravens and the Oni Warriors, that Eset, we've seen it played multiple times in the middle lane today. Of course, flex between support and mid. Been seeing it more popularly in the mid. We were watching the game, and Dardez connected with a spirit ball at max range and deleted one of the members of the Highland Ravens, and the entire room just went, ooh, and you mentioned just the insane damage multiplication right, of that ability. This Eset has to go, right? I mean, we've seen it played all day long to great success.
Yeah, when it's been played well, right? So it is that weird thing, like, do you ban it? I honestly think it could go up there, right? I mean, the Daji was banned out by the Ravens. I wouldn't even mind them maybe replacing that with the Eset. Grab the Daji for yourselves. I think adapting could have maybe a good game on that. I also think that, like you said, it's just been too much. Look, unless you're going to pick something that has like I'm thinking a Kraken, I'm thinking Spirit of the Nine Winds, I'm thinking very specific, like I'm a monster, type of ults. Secure ults around objectives. Yeah. Eset has Circle of Protection, healing, it's going to be good damage, it's going to be good secure around these objectives. You've got a Silence, that is just annoying if you're on the other side. And then assuming none of that is what's bothering you, Spirit Ball, as you said, and we've seen it at max range, 1.5 times the amount of damage, plus good scaling, like it just hits hard, and then a Wing Gust afterward. I think that it's just a very fun, plus even her passive starts to play a role in at that point. And it's little things, but I think all of them add up to make her a really strong god. So if the Warriors are able to get her again, it's not like she's impossible to kill. You just have to learn to play around it. So you can either opt for a draft that is going to dive her, or you could, well, I guess not anymore, ban her / pick her to make sure the Warriors don't get her.
Running through this first round of bans here, Gore, we got a mixed bag. We saw a lot of jungle targeting last game from the Oni Warriors, but let's start at the Ravens here. Amu's and Cobb, the Morrigan, and Cupid. Cupid finally taken off the table there in one of these games, and then Oni Warriors shooting back with this Mercury once again against adapting. The Cabrakan, so apparently they didn't like Calvin on that pick too much. It was impactful with those walls. We saw a lot of the combination with the Cabrakan and the Hercules, that boulder bouncing around in the walls, right? So taking that off the table.
It was a good combo.
Great combo. And looking at this third ban here, the Oni Warriors, are you thinking a standard meta ban, maybe taking away the Emoja, the Chernobog, something along those lines, or taking a shot at adapting or one of the other Ravens in particular?
I think, well, man, that's a really difficult ask, because like the Baba Yaga did a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And they were able to handle the Hunbats, but they only had the Hunbats over there because they handled everything else. I don't think I would mind like a Nemesis ban here. Yeah, I think she's been kind of overlooked. With Daji available, though, it's actually the balancing conversation. If you ban Nemesis there, then they pick up Daji and you don't get a top jungler. If they pick up Daji, you get Nemesis. Or in this case, and I like how the Ravens play this, you get Eset. The Warriors, I'm going to say probably the Daji first over the Nemesis, so I assume they'll pick up the Daji here. You'll still get a Nim. So at the end of the day, you're actually still getting a top priority jungle. And I think no matter what the Warriors do there, they're going to get something for their troubles, right? Either they lose the Daji, they ban a Nemesis, they get the Eset, or maybe they get something else. But I think they balance it out pretty well. They get a strong jungler. Unfortunately, I think it gives up 2 strong pieces over to the Ravens, but again, I think they know how to handle them.
Yeah, I think this Eset is the right pickup call for the Ravens here. Whether you want to flex that over to Calvin in the support role or keep it in the middle lane where we've seen it do damage all day long, either one is going to be a great pickup. Now that Nemesis is still open, Ullr notably still open as well. We've seen in the last couple of sets played to great skill and success here. So the Ravens have plenty of potential, and what really sticks out to me, I know I keep going back to it here, does Adapting want to save that jungle pick for the last pick like we saw in game number 1, or do they want to prioritize that Nemesis, prioritize, I mean, the second round of bans were what, Fenrir and Thanatos, so maybe Adapting looks to pick up one of his more priority junglers before the Oni Warriors can shoot back with some targeted bans.
It's an interesting balance, right, because I think he absolutely could if he wanted to scoop one up right now, but knowing that it's only 2 bans, right? Your team doesn't need to ban out a jungle. They already have a Daji, so you know your bans are going to be safe. Depending on what the Warriors go for, it's either going to be shot towards mids or probably shots over towards Vote over in the duo lane. Whereas they can ban 2 gods, and depending on how Adapting's feeling, 2 gods isn't the end of the world for you, right? With the Mercury already gone, with the Daji already gone, maybe it adds up to 4 total. And so some other potentially like high meta picks, Pele again, who's been someone like kind of high priority, could disappear. But I like where they're going with it, where it's just like, you know what? I'd rather have a little bit more of a counter pick. We can think about it a little more, see what we're going into, and lock it into those bottom 2. Yeah, we're going to lose out on 2 more junglers. They might, once again, maybe they ban the Thanatos and the Fenrir because those are just good adapting picks. But I think it is going to be difficult for the Warriors to find themselves in as good a position pick-wise and ban-wise that it's going to be so controlling over what Adapting grabs.
So it's going to be the King Arthur and the Ullr for the Ravens, so pressure in both side lanes now. And whether you flex that Eset over to the duo lane, pair it with Ullr, which is just going to be insanity, or you keep it in the mid lane, King Arthur always provides pressure no matter what throughout the game. So tons of pressure for the Highland Ravens. The Oni Warriors, exactly what you were talking about with some explosive, secure type ultimate. Poseidon provides that with the Kraken in spades. So countering the Eset with the Poseidon. So now when you're thinking about Pyromancers and Gold Furies, all of a sudden that dance becomes a little bit more tactical, right? Because either the Circle of Protection can get thrown down and pop there, or in response, the Kraken can be utilized to contest objectives as well. So it's going to be the Ratatoskr pickup. We know QvoFred can take that into the jungle, but with the Daji pickup, that tells me that it's actually going to go to the solo laner.
Yeah, it feels like it, and something that we haven't seen solo as much recently, but it's still been a very prominent solo pick over time, right? Where it's just been, I think, a very phenomenal pickup for teams, the Kings, Variety loves to play
Variety
it.
loves this.
And Nika, well, Nika plays damn near everything on his stream, so he's definitely got some practice under whatever he wants, but I think that this is one of my favorite, honestly, solo lane matchups. Against a King Arthur, I don't care about the lane phase that much. Ratatoskr, honestly, he might just get beat down into oblivion. But rotation power and maybe team fight prowess, I give that over to the Ratatoskr. Look, having a semi-global ult that gives a knock-up, good damage, good chase down, slow on his dash, things like that, I think that it just gives him a lot of utility to really work with in the middle of a fight.
The Ravens able to pick up kind of their dream final two here. Baba Yaga and Nemesis making it deep into this draft. No surprise that the Baba Yaga wasn't heavily prioritized, but this Nemesis making it all the way down.
Yeah, right?
To this, what, 7th pick here for the Highland Ravens. Adapting's happy to pick up that. Not only a character that Adapting is well practiced on, but incredibly meta and powerful, especially into this Khepri, right? You throw it on the big bug, huge target, you either burn the Scarab's Blessing or you shred the protections away. Great to see that. I think a compositional upgrade in pretty much all regard from the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, I think that every step of the way they've managed to find a lot. The Ullr versus the Ho-Yi is going to be an interesting matchup. Again, I think in like one-on-one fights, it's going to be Ho-Yi because, yeah, it's Ho-Yi. But I think that what we've seen out of an Ullr in a late-game team fight is very impressive. That plus the Baba Yaga damage from last time, the King Arthur, and the presence that he has. It is worth noting that this does shift that Eset over into the support role, which is, again, like you said, a little, I don't want to say like worse for your team, squishier for your team is the best way to describe it. Khepri can grab her pretty easily. Ho-Yi, the CC, the stuns, the the damage output that the Warriors are going to have. I think that there's a lot for them to think about here, but I think that early on should give you some decent clear, good control over the lane with the Nemesis and a Baba Yaga late game, a King Arthur in the late game. I really like what the Ravens have here. I think that they've put themselves up for a good shot against the Warriors.
But meanwhile, while these SPL teams are looking for this mid to late game, right? We've seen the early game go the way of SEC teams. SPL teams are really looking to aggress in that mid to late game. You got to think Nika on this Ratatoskr with this global presence early on can really exacerbate.
Yeah, there it is.
That middle game for the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, I have to imagine it's going to be frustrating, right? Like again, lane phase, King Arthur bullies everybody, so I assume that that's how it should be. Maybe a couple of ganks. I would be worried, actually, if I'm this King Arthur, because I expect Dodgy to be coming over there, because that rat's going to need some help. But I think that, like you said, right, later on, what your worries are going to be tenfold. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, like Khepri pull, yeah, we're not too worried about that. We can maybe ignore that. Oh, there's a Dodgy Powwow, there's a Kraken, there's a Ratatoskr. Oh, no, I don't want to deal with those. I think the Warriors have really good late game initiation.
Absolutely, and you know what? I can't wait any longer. So as I do the bit solo here, let's throw it to J-Mac and Trelly for game number 2.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dimes and Gore. Game number 2 between the Ravens and the Warriors kicking off. And what a composition that the Warriors have put together, Charlie. Picking up this Dodgy for QvoFred. Such a powerful pick for this team. And unfortunately, I lose this game of volleyball. Not just because I double-tapped once. Yeah, I know you get 3 hits in a normal game. I don't know how it works in 1v1s. But J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug for game number 2. And this is the last chance, at least for now, at least for today, for an SEC team to try and find an upset win over an SPL team. But after the performance that the Oni Warriors had in game number 1, it's going to be tough for them to do so.
Yeah, I hope the Highland Ravens are able to serve us up some action, and I hope they don't get spiked on the field. That's enough of the volleyball puns. Either way, they've got their work cut out for them. They are up against the QvoFred Dodgy, which notably doesn't get through too often. There's a reason it doesn't get in too often, because Qvo, he looks really good on it. And
Wait.
What do you
question? Oh, never mind. Never mind. That's Calvin. I saw the Eset Protectors Master. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. But that is Calvin over on the Eset. Just had to make sure there for a moment. As, yeah, the Highland Ravens, they're definitely got to fight back in. This Eset has been working well for a lot of teams. Though we've been seeing it more often not in the mid-roll, at least as of today, as of this event, where we're seeing these full power circular protections come through. Let's see how Calvin can do it over in the support role.
Yeah, I'm just imagining a ton of CC and a ton of annoyance. That's what you come to expect from really anyone who's playing the Eset. And Coast on his Ullr, I mean, notably, every time, I think I'm contractually obligated to bring up every time that we see Coast.
What?
He pented Miff on the Ullr, right? Or was that the Hachi?
No, that one was on the Ullr, if I remember correctly.
He got a pentakill against Mifflin on this Ullr.
Believe so.
And that's a big deal. And I have to bring that up every time, because I believe Dave brought it up last time. Someone has to call the light.
Someone's got to do it.
Whenever Coast is on Ullr, it has to be brought up that Coast got a penta against Mifflin on the Ullr.
Wasn't it the RDO jungle game too? Pretty sure it was.
I didn't get. I've seen the clip. I didn't pay attention. I didn't pay attention to who
All
was
you
getting
saw was
killed.
it was Pentakill and Mifflin dead on
Oh,
the
yeah.
other side.
That is the only thing I cared about, and I'm excited. I hope it comes again. I would love to see another Penta with Ullr, but either way, I'm just glad I brought it up.
Now that you have brought it up, that means you're putting a lot of extra emphasis on VaporishCoast.
Of course.
With this pick. But unfortunately for Coast and Calvin, the pressure that they did have in duo lane has been forced back by the Oni Warriors, who have made sure to push them back to the tower line instead. QvoFred going for another invade on this right side of the map in enemy territory, grabbing these back RP camps. He did it last game, and it put him behind slightly, enough for adapting to get about a half level lead up on him, but this time it's QvoFred with the lead, and now a blue buff invade. Kana is going to be too late to stop this one. QvoFred with one more auto in the bleed, and a nice little dash out. We'll make sure that that blue buff invade is successful, but now, keep your eyes on adapting. He's rotating over to the top side too.
Yeah, adapting's heading for this blue buff as well, and it looks like Kana wants blood. More specifically, Kana wants mana, and that's what this buff would bring, it being able to steal away. And Kana got it! So a little bit of more MP5. And Nika actually did not get to pick up the enemy blue buff, so now it's just going to be so much worse off in this lane because of that fact. Just the MP5 on Rat, not sitting too pretty at the moment. Does have the teleport available, so that will come into play as this game goes on. But I'm glad we get to see a little bit of a difference in the jungle styles, whereas, of course, adapting last game on the Batz up against 5 beads. This time on the Nemesis, beads aren't that much stressed. However, the sprint from NeilMah trying to deal with some of these slows. Cubo, though, on the Dardez, we see 4 beads already, putting some respect to that powwow. Now we're going to see if the Oni Warriors are able to burn some beads, get ready, and set up for Cubo. I'm not worried too much about it, though, because I've seen a lot of highlights from Cubo's Dardez, not even about the powwow. You really just have to use the damage from the kit alone, and you're able to find plenty of gank opportunities here. It's just nice to see that adapting doesn't need those kind of openings. Maybe we'll see him get active in the early because of that fact.
I mean, when we rewind back to the early portions of Phase 2, when the Warriors were really finding those big successes, those big wins up against their enemies, more often than not, it was when QvoFred and Dardez got to play a combo of one of two gods. They either got both Dodgy and the Morgan, happened very, very infrequently, or when they were just able to get at least one of them, usually QvoFred getting the Dodgy. So in the past, this has been at least a winning god/god combo for the Warriors. I think you're about to highlight that maybe not just Cubo, but just Dodgy in general has been such a potent pick in the jungle for so many of our top-level teams.
Looks like Cubo's actually wrapping around here onto Angry. I was wondering if we'd see any more sparks fly from that, but too difficult to kill Baba Yaga with Home Sweet Home still active. Unless, of course, Dardez is dropping that Kraken. And you never want to drop the Kraken first. You always want to do it after that ult has been fired. So I think Dardez is smart to hold on to that one, and Cubo not looking to aggress anymore. You got to keep your eyes on the solo lane just because of the double teleports and the fact that Nika can always choose to get active on this Rat. I imagine until that Soul Eater is built, there's going to be no sort of rotating. And usually it's about level 12. That's when we're seeing aggression. But, I mean, last game Vote was flying in really at level like 11 on that Chernobog. So the Oni Warriors not too afraid to get active with the rest of their squad whenever they need to. Once Pyromancer spawns in, of course, more action on this side of the map. But you always got to be watching out because that Rat can be sneaky and can rotate extremely fast.
And that's semi-global pressure from the Assassin. Nika actually electing to go towards the Soul Eater first. Typically when we see Ratatoskr on the hole, you rush that Acorn as early as possible, get that pick up, and then we start seeing items afterwards, usually picking up tier 2 plus your starter item. But Nika electing to start towards Soul Eater ahead of time, get that lifesteal, get that sustain. I believe he should have enough gold to go back. Yeah, almost 1,500 in pockets, pick that one up. And then can start working on the Acorn now. So
Which
Soul
one?
Eater up. I don't know. Which one do you think he'll go with?
Well, I know which one. I want to hear how you pronounce it.
Thick Bark?
Oh, isn't it Thistlethorn?
Thistlethorn?
I've said
Is
said Thistlecorn, but I'm pretty sure it's Thistlethorn, and
Yeah.
I caught myself saying it once. I wanted to see if you'd say Thistlecorn, but there is the thick bark as well. Yeah, the one that gives the flurry 2 charges. That's the one that we know is coming. I just wanted to hear if you'd say Thorn or Corn. So maybe I was setting you up for failure. So
You were trying, but then I just completely steered your horse to another river.
I've never heard that before.
You were trying to lead me.
I've heard you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah,
but
you're trying to send me to a whole other river
you're
at this
just-
point.
No, you said
You're
mud.
trying to get me to eat mud.
I guess so. We are just doomed to have some wacky conversations after a couple long days of Masters. Either way, though, we are looking to see some action again because these junglers have not got active, because these relics haven't been forced. We haven't seen Qvo or Adapting send too much towards either of these side lanes, right? Qvo sort of halfway ganked onto Angry, then realized, nah, I'm just gonna go farm. Like, there's too much farm to be had. I'm gonna run away, and that pressure has been matched by Adapting pretty much throughout the map.
A little bit of a differentiation as far as the Hunter builds. We've seen it a couple of times pop up. More often than not, Transcendence is the call for so many Hunters, but Vote going for dominance in first slot instead. So foregoing stacking for a little bit of extra pen on those basic attacks. I mean, how do you feel about the synergy? For those who don't know, once again, the pool noodles have fallen over. That one was my fault, though. I will say that one was my fault. But back on the dog dominance.
Well, we get to see Vote going into the dominance, and I think that's just the threat of a fair bit of tank stats coming his way. Of course, Eset starting. Alona's actually Vote could be in some trouble here as Calvin has the wraparound, but not too far behind is Neil with the Scarab's Blessing. We're going to see a 2v2.
Signs of Spirit Ball are good, but
Nope, we're
there's
not.
no other follow-up.
I lied. I was excited.
Everything used on the initial burst, and Vote shrugs it off, holds on to his beads, and will use the last of that health chalice to get himself some extra HP in lane. 3 health chalices of that picked up. 1 by jungle, 1 by carry, and 1 by solo. We've been seeing this item kind of pop up more often for people outside of the solo lane. Shouldn't have been any action there. I mean, adapting right up to the close on tower. But how do you kind of feel about these health chalices popping up more often, Charlie?
Well, I love the health chalices because I call it a little bit of an investment. Angry is going to have to pop the beats and go into the home sweet home. A little bit too worried of the damage. Actually didn't pop the beats, just used the home sweet home. I saw the light up and I thought that was what was happening. Either way, was a little bit worried about the damage and the bounce there from Vote. But I think you're investing 900 gold early on, which means you should probably be weary of that. That's a fair bit of your damage that you're missing. However, if you get a power spike and then you're able to build it, it's just going to help you with sustain. And if you're going to buy potions throughout the game, it's always going to be worthwhile. QvoFred and Dardez looking for the gank here. Nika's in the sky.
Nika dunks down, doesn't find Adapting, but Adapting doesn't have beads, will be yanked into the Powwow, and a Kraken after will help secure the first blood for the Oni Warriors. A 3-man rotation to solo comes up net positive.
Yep, that's going to be exactly what the doctor ordered if you're trying to get ahead here. I was waiting to see, you know, Dardez has been holding on to this Kraken for quite some time. Where was it finally going to drop down? Right at the bottom of a powwow and a knock-up from Nika, making sure to confirm all of that action over in the solo lane. Of course, Qvo did get credit for the kill. Not enough burst damage coming from that Kraken, but just enough to make sure your jungler is able to have a little bit of a lead. You also put down Adapting, which is going to be massive, right? Qvo getting off to a good start while also putting Adapting down to a bad start. That's exactly what you would want if you are an Oni Warriors fan. I expect to see Qvo not let off the gas at all. He has that extra momentum now. He knows the timer on Adapting speeds. That Nemesis is going to have to play pretty far back because for the next 2 minutes, you're in some trouble.
Ooh, Dardez does get knocked up by the home sweet home. Needs a few of those firebolt shots to get the kill. Missed that first one. And that is all that was needed to be juked out by Dardez for him to survive that fight. The Oni Warriors keep their mid laner. He keeps his relics as well. And he'll be fine for the next team fight. Cracking up in just a little while. I wonder if Dardez will make a rotation to another lane and try and use that ulti again.
Yeah, Angry unfortunately just choked a few of those shots and it was not going to be enough. The home sweet home connected, but at that point Angry was just not fast enough to keep up with the movement speed. And now Circle of Protection goes down. We know that story. The Pyromancer goes down for the Highland Ravens. They get a small consolation prize. They would have loved to kill Dardez, but Pyromancer to try and even up some of that gold is going to be decent. It isn't the Gold Fury, though. You know, it's going to go a fair bit, and a little extra gold in pocket is always good. Doesn't mean that lead's completely negated, though.
Chernobog did try and step up to blue, but I think he realized that QvoFred was up there as well. And so will not go for an invade this time. Nika does not go towards the thick bark acorn, though. Instead, I believe it is the Thistlethorn acorn. Picked up by Nika in that solo lane, but it's a 1v1 of the Hunters. And VaporishCoast, I thought he would have jumped in to fight against that one, but instead jumps away.
Kraken.
He might have wanted to go for that 1v1 because
He's
Dardez
going.
is right behind. Whirlpool off the mark. So is the axe toss. Dardez has the Kraken, but will use it after the jump and gets the return fight up against VaporishCoast. Another kill for the Warriors and the first one for the mid laner.
Yeah, I mean, Coast had to go through 10 different situations there in his head before committing to that jump. He's like, if I jump far, he Krakens, I die. If I jump close, he Krakens close, I can run. Maybe I try to kill Vote, but ended up trying to survive as much as possible as the Oni Warriors here are looking to go for a gank here onto Calvin, but it actually looks like Kana TP'd in.
There's no Kraken for Dardez. He is at the mercy of the rest of the team, but the Powwow will find Kana. He'll ult to get away from there. 3 versus 2 in the lane. QvoFred wrapping around, but it's 5 Oni Warriors versus the 4 of the Highland Ravens. VaporishCoast just coming off of his respawn, and that's enough for both teams to back away.
See,
And
Thistle
there's
Thorn.
Thorn.
I
correct.
say Thistle Corn.
I don't know where you get corn from.
I mean, whatever. I guess it.
What is what? What does an acorn turn into? A tree.
Yeah, but it says whatever. I don't need this from you. I'm just saying Thistle Thorn does not roll off the tongue.
It does, though.
It gets stuck on your tongue, if anything. It makes you say thorn.
Like peanut butter on the roof of your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounds like to me. But I will now say Thistle Thorn for the rest of my existence. You will never hear me discuss.
You're gonna mess it up just like I used to say for the Scorpions. I used to call it the Phoenix their Scorpion at the same time.
Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going
No,
to say
that
Thistle
should
Thorn.
only be me making that mistake.
Yeah, notably.
And I shouldn't be making that mistake to begin with.
Notably, there will not be 2 charges of Flurry this game. It'll just be an easier stun for Nika to hit with that Acorn Blast. So a little bit more damage oriented. Because of that, just because of that Acorn upgrade alone, I don't expect to see as much tank stats and more so this hybrid build. Nika's trying to go for damage. He wants to kill Angry and Coast on cooldown, even adapting at this point because Nem doesn't have too much protections online and a lot of stuns and knockups to break that shield. So I imagine Nika trying to use that influence throughout the map. Did tick over to level 13, but did not pick up a second relic just yet. Could be a blink if you're looking to get aggressive, or maybe a beads if you're fearing how much CC the Ravens have.
For now, the Ravens at least keeping pace, even with 2 kills to the Warriors. The gold has not gotten too far out of hand. We're barely sitting at around 1,000. Dardez holding on to that. Oh, I thought maybe he let that one rip over against Calvin or Angry, but will for now hold on to Kraken. Instead, it's an invade of the red buff by the Oni Warriors. And this is where it starts getting dangerous, is when the Ravens aren't even able to try and step up to their own buffs. They're being denied farm and essentially what you would consider, you know, their own territory, but at this point, the Warriors are just considering that neutral territory.
Yeah, given the presence, you never really know when an Oni Warrior could be sitting around the corner. You know, the rattle can come from anywhere. Well, not anywhere, but halfway across the map. You always have to be watching out with that vision, keeping that ward game strong. And actually, the Oni Warriors have so much vision. I mean, the Ravens jungle is lit up like Christmas Day. You can just see how much they are completely aware. Anytime some farm is being dropped, the Oni Warriors are just so aware of it. So I don't think any sneaky ganks happening anytime soon. And actually, Nika being forced up into the sky, maybe recognized that adapting could have been on the way, but didn't want to get poked down too far before that gank could have came through.
So Nika down an ultimate makes it only 9 up for the next potential fight. Angry's got his, but he will leap away in the cauldron. And Dardez left by himself, spear ball over the wall, but it does some pretty petty damage comparatively. Remember, this is a support Eset, so not going to have quite the same level of burst that this would have been for a mid lane. So Dardez doesn't need any of his relics, doesn't need his ult, doesn't need NeilMah's ult either to get his way out of that engagement.
Yeah, Dardez with the Zoom Orb and popping that Trident has been running away from danger throughout this whole game. You know, if it's home sweet home, if it's just divine judgment, anything at the moment he's able to run away from so far. I mean, there's not too much damage that's going to be sticking until I imagine Kana rotates through. But even then, the Whirlpool is.
Did that hit for 15?
Did you? Was it a 15 from the Spirit Ball?
No, not the
Or a
Spirit
take of
Ball,
the
the
Wing
Wing
Gust.
Gust. Did it hit for 15 on NeilMah?
I mean, I bet you if Calvin used his full kit, it would break the shield, and that's about it. That's kind of the damage we're expecting from a Lono's Mask Eset up against Khepri.
Oh, Angry. Both relics down from the Kraken, and Calvin's going to need more than just relics. He's going to need help. A Circle of Protection will do just that. It'll get at least a decent heal, but Nika up on the tree. Where does his target go? The red buff, the Powwow, will get beats from Coast and Calvin. And the Oni Warriors still pushing forward to the right side. All 5 members there, though, will go towards the Gold Fury, but a Pyromancer at least return for the Highland Ravens. That'll get them a little bit of gold, but the much more beneficial objective will be going over to the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, I was surprised that I didn't see Cxnnahh and adapting in that fight. Then I looked over and was like, oh, they've already decided they lost this fight, and probably fair. I mean, you lose both relics on Angry, beads for Coast and Calvin. Yeah, I would say just give that one up and say we'll live to fight another day and try and keep this gold loss to a minimum. Given the situation, could have went a lot worse. If you're looking, just take a look at the Highland Ravens relics. They've got beads for adapting and Cxnnahh. That's about it. Nothing else can be used, and that's a losing team fight if I've ever seen one. So definitely a smart call there. Good map knowledge from the Ravens to say, hey, we're just going to grab Pyro. Good luck over there. We're going to maybe farm right, push a wave or two, but there's no way we rotate late to that fight. We just watch the Gold Fury go down, and that's never worth it. So staying in this game as best as they can. And they still have some avenues to fight back. We really haven't seen too much of a grouping of a team fight. Once Cxnnahh joins in, I think their fight gets a lot stronger.
Curious where the Oni Warriors put their pressure now, because they've sent both of their trebuchets down the lane. The first one met by Cxnnahh on the right side of the map. The second trebuchet now pushing towards the Gold Fury, at least on the left side of the map. So then, with both Pyro and Gold down, I'd imagine a group up of the Warriors, and it seems that it will be towards the Tier 1 tower in duo lane. Only a small grouping by the Highland Ravens. It doesn't even seem like Coast wants to be a part of this fight. Look how far back he is compared to Calvin, who has maybe realized that he shouldn't be that far up, even with his hunters somewhat nearby. Coast probably giving a call like, yo, Calvin, just give it up, man.
Yeah, Coast said, hey, my beads are down for a minute, and Qvo is not on the map, so I'm not leaving Tier 2. You cannot pay me to save that tower. Like, I will be sitting as far back as humanly possible. We see a little bit of a ward sort of between the towers, though, just to make sure that there's no Palau trying to grab him from afar. But Vote is in, I mean, essentially the freest position you can be in, with both relics up against the Eset and the Ullr that have no beads. They're not going to be looking to get aggressive anytime soon. Remember, Angry has no relics, so home sweet home, forced out by an Abduct.
Qvo could turn around and ult right away. Adapting beads back up, uses the ult on one. Dardez gets a root for an assistance by NeilMah. The sun's rained down, and circle protection is good to hold Calvin for a while, but adapting does not have the beads anymore. This Palau is pulling into, adapting gone. Coast should be short after. QvoFred with that Scare's Blessing will stay under that tower, will have the proc back through, and Cxnnahh stunned out by Nika. It is just two to defend on this tower as Angry is pushed so far back with no relics. The Oni Warriors are walking right through this tower line.
Yeah, they're ready for this Tier 2 tower, but some low health bars and a beautiful stun by Vote. He's able to delete Angry there with a little bit of help from Nika. Tier 2 tower goes down, and this is the call. Channel those backs immediately. They're not going for anything particular. They're right towards that Fire Giant, even with these ultimates down. It's Calvin and Cxnnahh. Cxnnahh just had to use the beads to survive that fight, so not too much steal potential. I imagine they'd have no problem trying to burn through that. And actually, Dardez already sort of on zone duty, just stealing away some farm. I was wondering if he's going to get aggressive on Cxnnahh there. Didn't back, but shouldn't need too much help to burn this one down.
That was all 5 of the Warriors. This should be an easy Fire Giant, unless Cxnnahh is able to find a miracle steal over the wall. Won't even be able to get to stand near the wall, as Nika on this Ratatoskr zoning him away, adapting too far out. Nika up on the tree, Fire Giant around 5, and the Oni Warriors will kind of spread out a little bit. I thought maybe we'd see kind of a united push towards one side, but now they've seen that none of the Ravens are standing by. It'll be over towards the solo lane Tier 1, which won't stand for much longer.
Yeah, Dardez still getting active. The front liner, essentially, for the Oni Warriors, just trying to find any whirlpool into Kraken possible. There is no Aegis available for Coast. And actually, Angry once again lost out on both relics, so extremely dangerous situation to try and defend a Tier 2 tower like this. Forced into the home sweet home just to clear the wave at this point is Angry. They want to keep this tower up and let Adapt try and get the Tier 2 in mid, but Adapting's looking at red buffs.
Adapting did take Tier 1. He can, at the very least, clear out the jungle on the Warriors side, but now that the Warriors recognizing that Adapting isn't pushing too hard, they are going to stick to this right side of the map. QvoFred will separate from the team. With a minion wave pushing in, a chance for the Warriors to get into this tower and provoke to drop it down pretty quickly. 20 minutes, nearly 21 in. Oni Warriors have cleared out the entire right side structures. Still 2 Phoenixes exposed. Mid lane unchecked for the moment at least. Tier 1 and Tier 2 both standing there. The Highland Ravens, we've seen what they have to do to defend against Tier 2 towers. It's use this home sweet home to clear waves. As we get to these Phoenixes, how much more difficult it is for this team.
I mean, they do have a fair bit of damage built. I think the issue is that the Oni Warriors just have so much as well. They have very little peel. Their peel is damage, essentially. It's just as long as Vote and Dardez are grouped up, Qvo can always just go up into the powwow for safety, and Nika's constantly looking at the backline of the Highland Ravens. There's really no avenue for them to try and get aggressive. Their best option to lean on here is their amount of CC and lockdown. There is no Emperor's Armors built just yet, so the Phoenix will still be doing a big chunk of damage to NeilMah, who's going to be tanking this Phoenix up. Your best option is, you know, silence into Spirit Ball, into Axe, into knock up from Kana. Just chain stun someone who's being tanked by this Phoenix and let it do its work, because you don't have too much damage to try and burn down one of these targets. You can't defend the towers in mid. It's going to be a slow burn, but you have to play off of these Phoenix as best as you can. There's a fair bit of CC that the Highland Ravens have. If they can get one set of beads down, they could be looking a lot better.
Tier 1 tower in mid goes down. Grouping of everybody but Dardez instantly towards the mid tier 2. Dardez wrapping around the back, actually throughout the Kraken. It seems he was at least able to get beads away from VaporishCoast. So a target for QvoFred on the Lao. Ricochet just off the mark. Whirlpool dropped. Not a real push just yet from the Oni Warriors, waiting on that minion wave to step up. Only a minute left on their Fire Giant.
Yeah, Adapting was able to get that tier 1 in right. Hasn't been able to find any sort of damage. Sitting just at the bottom of the charts there with Calvin as well. So this Nemesis has been pretty inactive given this whole game. Just trying to find farm and upgrade a starter item as quickly as possible. But there's been no farm on the map that is free for Adapting. His team is fighting for towers while he's split pushing at this point just to try and get some form of damage online to be able to help out in these team fights. Luckily enough, though, the Ravens do have some breathing room here, because it doesn't look like the Fire Giant buff will be lasting much longer. There is no sort of Phoenix Siege being had just yet, so there will be about 20 seconds before that buff falls through, and the Ravens have some time to recompose themselves and try and get ready for this next fire pull. They have some ways to try and go for a steal, but Circle of Protection with this build, it's not outbursting a Kraken in any universe, so that's not your best option. You have to try and out-damage some of these tanks, some of these carries. It's not going to be easy, but the Ravens, they know what they got to do.
So will the Ravens step up to defend against the Fire Giant? There's 3, going to be soon 4 players on the wrong side of the map when it does spawn in. 50 seconds until Fire Giant is back. And that means 50 seconds till the Ravens need to be there to defend up against the pit. The Trebuchet goes to the Warriors, able to grab enough of those offerings to get that one up. Adapting and Calvin willing to split push with VaporishCoast, but this should be an easy call then for the Oni Warriors to get Fire Giant.
Yeah, I'm given the fact that there's 3 in left. Someone's going to have to back. It looks like Nika's heading back at the moment. Just grabbing that tower, then instantly backing. No, they actually are going to go for this. So this is a smart call, because it looks like their fight is just not going to work. However, the Oni Warriors recognize that and immediately go for this right side burn.
NeilMah there. They've got a minion wave almost in. Kana no beads. Angry no ultimate. As Adapting dives to the backline. He is chopping through what little health that Angry has left. Doesn't even need the pull from the Lao. Just the chain damage is enough. QvoFred, the Oni Warriors, they take the right side Phoenix. They take 1 life.
Nika stopping all their backs.
But they will not take the Titan just yet. Nika in a 2v1 is holding Coast and Calvin back from going to the base. But that's still not enough for the Oni Warriors to close this one out. They're going to turn tail towards Fire Giant instead.
Yeah, I really thought it was going to be a base race situation, and I think that was the call from the Ravens. Like, let's just 3v1. And they're like, wait, Nika does not die. Like, we tried our best. He is not falling anytime soon, so there's no way we can kill a Phoenix and a Titan when we can't even kill this Ratatoskr. Lost the right side Phoenix in the process, and once again, another Fire Giant dance that wasn't even a dance. It was more of a solo, a break dance, if you will. That's just a one-man show. Just the Oni Warriors able to grab that Fire Giant and head back to base, get their last little power spikes before officially breaking the base. Because don't get me wrong, they broke the base. That right side Phoenix is down, but that wasn't a traditional push. They didn't group up with this left side Trebuchet. They've got some time to sit back and get those last-minute power spikes. Qvo, who is already undying this game, 3-0, gets a Magi's. Of course, the Highland Ravens haven't been able to find a kill onto anyone, given the fact that NeilMah has been so on point with these Scarab's blessings. But if you weren't killing Qvo before, he's got an extra level of survivability now. It's not going to look good.
Missed the kind of methodical play that we normally see out of teams like the Camelot Kings and even the EUSCC teams, where we are 26 minutes in, Charlie, only 6 kills on the board, but such a lead picked up by the Oni Warriors. As you can see, nearly 12,000 up, full build on 2 of the players from the Oni Warriors. Meanwhile, the closest one to a full build is Adapting, who's still sitting on a tier 1 item. The Oni Warriors splitting their attention across the map, not committing everybody, but a Trebuchet on the way and left.
Yeah, someone has to go right lane and defend those fire minions if the Oni Warriors play their time right. And of course, Qvo and Nika in mid is a deadly 2v2 that I don't think that Adapting and Kana really want to take. So it looks like they're splitting this up as best as possible. Calvin was sort of playing zone duty between the 2 Phoenixes. But with the Trebuchet in left, and NeilMah trying his best.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that you as a player could body block the Trebuchet like that.
I mean, Khepri's bigger than the Trebuchet. He can hold that thing back himself.
The Trebuchet is 1 Khepri wide. We do have that measurement now.
Yeah, it's 1 Khepri wide, so as long as there's 1 Khepri there, shouldn't be too much of a trouble. And now you got an extra man helping you out with this Phoenix.
The minions pushing in as well. Trebuchet will start batting away, as will Angry to the health bar of NeilMah. But he's at half HP on this Khepri instead. The focus towards burning away the Trebuchet. What's getting the free poke on the Phoenix. Nika rotates over towards mid. QvoFred comes back left. Will be hit by a Spirit Ball. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but the Oni Warriors will wait for this next minion wave.
This is what I'm talking about. We're seeing how much CC the Ravens have, and that's what's slowing the push in here from the Oni Warriors. A beautiful axe combo from Coast. Kana's able to connect with some damage as well. The Oni Warriors are not just rushing in, but it's also because of that right side of your map. Fire minions pouring into the base. Someone from the Ravens has to go and clear those. Once that happens, that's the go button for the Oni Warriors.
Was Adapting for a moment going back, but he is teetering back and forth between actually committing to the left fight, committing to helping mid, and now will go back. So it is 3 versus 4. That's the call for Nika to join the fight on the left-hand side of the map. The Kraken slams through Calvin. Vote finds the pickup kill. Angry low. QvoFred on the Powwow will find the killing blow with Nika to take down the mid laner. And the Oni Warriors will continue to run through the base of the Highland Ravens. Adapting gone. QvoFred picked back up by his support, and the Oni Warriors will take a 2-0. Not a single game dropped by the SPL against the SCC for a clean 2-0 across the board this weekend.
And not even a kill goes through that time. And again, there was a few Scarab's blessings, so NeilMah made sure that that kill column never went in favor of the Highland Ravens, and they never even got something on the board. There was just no way. There was no aggression. Adapting never was able to find some pressure to get one of those lanes ahead. I mean, Kana was like net even, which was fine, but the Rat was able to make the much more impactful rotations. Nika was always at those team fights with the squad, and unfortunately, Dardez on this Poseidon was actually out jungling at this point, just zooming across the map with the Doom Orb. He was able to find a rotation over to solo, then a couple minutes later, you see him in duo lane ganking Coast. No one was safe, and the Oni Warriors, they were clinical this game.
I mean, similar to what we saw from the Oni Warriors, similar to things we saw from the Camelot Kings, where big man Tings, well, he's playing from home, put him on a god that's pretty easy to hit abilities on. You can zoom across the map.
Oh, yeah.
See the same thing for Dardez and the Oni Warriors. They take the 2-0. We're going to take out of here. We're going to let the desk take it away.
Gore, buddy, methodical, calculated, suffocating, all adjectives used to describe SPL teams yesterday and today, all day long, but especially here in this Highland Ravens Oni Warriors game. Goose egg for the Highland Ravens. Not even 1 kill put on the board in this game number 2.
Yeah, like Charlie said, there's I think a lot of good presence of mind from Neil, making sure that 0 stays a 0. Even at the very end, they were trying. They were so close. But Neil got brought back, Qvo got brought back. Neil made sure that nothing for his teammates ended up falling down. Again, I think the Warriors, look, they came into this one with a game plan, and you have to have flashbacks. I think the last time they played Dardez, it was game 1 versus the Valkyries. They lost that set, but the first game, they blanked them, and they blanked them when they had the Dardez. You get that, you get the Poseidon here alongside the Khepri. I think you get just a very good performance for them. And even though it kind of falls through the hands of the Ravens, you know, it's easy to talk about the fact that they didn't get any kills, et cetera, things like that. I think it is important and interesting, at least, to see that there was some still like good fight back from them. It's just a certain point where, what are you gonna do, right? I mean, you're super far behind. Like right now, still fight back. About 5 minutes from now, too much. in favor of the Warriors, gold-wise, map pressure-wise, things like that. And I think that it just kind of goes to show how quickly out of hand it can get if you aren't able to secure some of those kills, or if in this instance you can secure those kills. It's just unfortunately on a single target, and the Khepri can just deny you of that. I think Qvo gets back on this Dardez, looks fantastic. And that's really what we were hoping for, I think, if you're a Warriors fan.
And I said before, it felt like we'd watched 7 identical games of SMITE, right? With a good-looking early game for the SCC teams, the SPL teams taking over come mid-game. Once again, this game is a simile of that as well. And that doesn't speak to the inexperience of these SCC teams, because they're still some of the best SMITE players in the world, right? I think it's just the experience of the SPL teams having that organized play under their belts and knowing how to choke a map state, right? Knowing how to macro farm, how to play at such a high level that even, grabbing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kills, right? They still had a massive gold lead, massive experience lead. Just because of the neutral state of farm on the map, they were able to capitalize so well.
And honestly, I think that that's something that it's always interesting, and I agree with Mifflin, something he said this morning, where, elimination day for now all of the SCC teams tomorrow becomes a lot more interesting, because all of a sudden that fire is there, and now it's less, you're admittedly going to be going up against teams of your caliber. SPL teams play against literally the best in the world week in and week out for 3 days a week, plus scrims. So, of course, they're going to have a lot of experience like that. But I think that tomorrow is the start of the real big fire burning for all these SCC teams, right? That will to not get eliminated, that will to continue pushing forward, to then take it to some of the SPL teams. You never know. The second round, when they play on Sunday against a lot of them, if they win tomorrow, whoever wins tomorrow, and then whoever loses on Saturday will face each other. That's when I think things will be a lot spicier than maybe the last 2 days.
Well, I'm curious to hear from the Oni Warriors about their blanking victory over the Highland Ravens. J-Max standing by with the duo lane of the Warriors to hear directly from them themselves.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've got Vote and NeilMah, the dual lane of the Warriors. Congrats on your 2-0 over the Highland Ravens. I mean, how does it feel coming out of a game 1, pretty close to kind of start things out, and in game 2 you blank these guys? Vote, kind of tell me about the confidence of the team coming out of a game like this.
I mean, just honestly kind of what we expected, or what I expected. Game 1 should have been similar, but Fred just hard showed the purple buff, looking for a 1v1 in the king, and you can't do that to the king,
You guys have kind of been struggling a little bit during the phase. This last half of at least phase number 2, not super favorable for the Warriors. I mean, NeilMah, how's it feel, at least for the team, being able to kind of break that losing streak, get a win up here in day 1, and kind of get your kickstart for the Masters event?
Definitely feels good. I mean, you just build momentum through tournaments like this, and we had been slumping a bit, but we've been picking up through practice, and I think we're all really confident coming to the tournament. And getting a 2-0 just kind of does nothing but help that, right? So we're definitely feeling really good going forward.
Now, for sure. And to keep the vibe going, we've gotten to talk to all the teams so far about their summer activities. You guys are going to the beach. What's the thing you do on the beach? Are you sitting in the chair sun tanning? You going out into the water? I mean, what are the two of you guys doing if you're going out to the beach?
I'm just in the water the whole day, honestly.
He's lathering up my back. I'm suntanning.
I'm not anywhere near you.
You
I'm
might.
not touching you ever. I'll get your restraining order, actually.
A restraining order. Sheesh.
Oh, man.
See me in soul lane then.
So,
me and Nika roll swap.
NeilMah never coming back to the dual lane for the Oni Warriors. Guys, thanks so much for coming by the interview. Congrats on your win. I'll let you give it out, and we'll take it over to the desk to close the day out.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of conflict in the duo lane there from the Oni Warriors. Maybe thinking of a role swap incoming for the Oni Warriors as they
That's
continue
actually
through
what
SMITE
usually that
Masters.
conversation, little did people know, that's how roster swaps start.
Exactly.
And really what happened behind the scenes of the Dragons was that they were going to go to the beach, but Sam absolutely refused to be helpful for Fine Oak here.
Right.
They got suntan.
PDM stripped his shirt off and was like, lather me up, Sam.
I said no, and
absolutely
that's
not,
how
and
all
jumped in.
trades start in the SPL, actually. That's why it's always in the summer, if you were ever curious about that. That's why they always seem to blow up in July.
Right. After World's Ends, roster apocalypse, because everyone's taking their vacations.
Yeah.
Right? Let's check out. This is only day 2 of SMITE Summer Masters. Still plenty of SMITE left to be played, so let's hop into this bracket schedule situation and see what's left to be played here. Jade Dragons now fighting, we know, into the Oni Warriors.
Yep.
That's not going to be tomorrow, though, because that's winners, right? So we got match 12 coming at you. Highland Ravens fighting into the Athenian Sages, who had a great look yesterday. So I'm excited to see all these SCC teams match up cross country, cross NA in Europe into one another.
Yeah, cross seed, cross country, cross everything.
Yeah, cross everything.
That they're going to be hitting each other. I guess cross league technically. And it's going to be fun to watch, right? You know, because we talk about it, and you know, I still see people mentioning it because like with the LAN league, you don't get as much NA versus EU. We're getting that, and that's the thing that I think I'm most excited for to be able to watch. Plus, at least for that one, it's a very enticing matchup to watch. So the Ravens are a team I expect to bounce back.
Yeah, 2-0s across the board. Titans, Kings, Scarabs, Warriors. I don't think anyone's surprised by this outcome, right? The SPL teams are at the top of their game. SMITE has never been more competitive than it has been ever since we've moved to LAN, right? I mean, the competition has been increasingly more difficult, so no surprise that the SPL squads are able to triumph over the SCC squads, which means that moving forward in that winner's bracket, it is all SPL all the time.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's something that you kind of expect, but that also means 4 teams, SPL teams at least, are guaranteed going to be making it to next week, right? Because that's just how the bracket's going to work out. But that also means that these SCC teams get a chance to play tomorrow and then a chance again on Sunday to be able to come in, try to find themselves a win, and potentially put themselves in the top 8 and maybe knock out somebody from the SPL.
Yeah, well, let's check out what's coming our way tomorrow. Elimination time. It's the big one, right? The first 2 days.
Elimination Friday.
Is that what we're calling it? Is that
That's
the
what
official?
I'm calling it.
All right, hashtag SMITE Summers Masters Elimination Friday. Is that a little lengthy? Maybe too wordy?
That is a long hashtag.
We'll leave that to the.
It took up half of your tweet.
We'll leave that to the social media team. Eldritch Hounds and Gilded Gladiators. The Storm taking on Hex Mambo. That's going to be a great match. Same thing with the Sages and the Ravens. And then Wardens, Scorpions closing out our day. So SCC all day long tomorrow as we find out who's officially going home from SMITE Summer Masters.
Yeah, I'm excited to see a lot of these, right? Hounds, Glads, Storm, and the Mambo. Not like you said, not only just watching NA EU fight each other, but also a lot of really strong matchups that I think are going to be out there. The Gladiators had, I think, an impressive performance earlier today. I'm excited to see what they can do against the Hounds. And for the Ravens, like I said, a team I expect to bounce back. And same thing for the Scorpions down there. So I think that there's a lot of interest in my mind tomorrow as to what these teams are going to be able to provide and what we're going to get to see.
And of course, teams fighting for their tournament life. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the most fun of it.
It is do or die tomorrow. So you're going to want to make sure to tune in tomorrow. Let's see, we're in Eastern time, right,
Yes.
Gore? So that means 11 a.m. Eastern time. I'm from Central time, so I always get those confused because math is not my strong suit. It's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can find us right here on twitch.tv/SmiteGame. And Gore, that's going to be it for us here. Day 2 Summer Masters. It's Dimes, it's Gore. Thank you so much for tuning in. For everyone here, we will see you tomorrow, and make sure to stay hydrated.